This photograph captures the bustling, commercial streets of 19th century Calcutta. This was the environment of the Datta family. They were highly educated, wealthy, and operated at the upper tiers of the city's legal and social circles. But beneath that material success ran an intense current of spiritual devotion. The family patriarch had abandoned his wealth to live as a wandering monk. Years later, his daughter-in-law, Bhuvaneshwari Devi, spent months fasting and praying to Lord Shiva, asking for a son. As documented here, her son, Narendranath, was born January 12, 1863, just before sunrise, with Sagittarius rising. Outside, millions washed in the sacred river for a Hindu festival, filling the dawn air with religious music. He arrived into a world of material privilege, yet he was marked from his first breath by a heavy expectation that his life belonged to a higher spiritual purpose. Young Naren was a chaotic, hyperactive child. He suffered from severe fits of restlessness that exhausted the household. To break these severe tantrums, his mother would pour cold water over his head while chanting the name of Shiva, which would instantly snap him back to a joyous calm. As he grew, that erratic energy channeled into a prodigious intellect. By age 7, he had memorized massive volumes of complex Sanskrit grammar. Yet he was so fascinated by wandering ascetics that his family had to lock him inside, otherwise he would throw their possessions out the window as offerings to passing monks. He also experienced regular visual anomalies. As this text records, every time he closed his eyes to sleep, an expanding sphere of light would bloom between his eyebrows. For years, the boy assumed this happened to everyone. His insulated, comfortable life shattered in 1884 when his father died suddenly. Without his income, the family's finances collapsed. Relatives turned against them, and they lost their claim to the large ancestral mansion. Around this time, he met the Mohan in this portrait, the mystic Sri Ramakrishna. Naren was deeply skeptical of him at first, arguing aggressively against his teachings. But Ramakrishna's absolute certainty in his direct experience of God slowly eroded the young student's doubts. When Ramakrishna died in August of 1886, Naren finalized his commitment. He and several other disciples took formal monastic vows, severing all ties to the material world. Financial ruin had permanently removed his material safety net. The argumentative student had been replaced by a committed monk. In 1888, he left his monastery to become a Parivrajaka, a wandering monk with no fixed home. He carried only a water pot, a walking staff, and 2 books, the Bhagavad Gita and the Imitation of Christ. For the next 5 years, he crisscrossed the entire Indian subcontinent. He traveled on foot and by train, relying entirely on the alms of strangers and tickets purchased by admirers. As he pursued internal meditation, he was repeatedly confronted by the external environment. This photograph shows the exact type of living conditions he encountered. He was walking directly through mass starvation and the suffocating poverty of his countrymen. Look at these ascetics sitting in the dust. He sat right there with them. He lived alongside everyone, from wealthy rajas and government officials to scholars and outcasts. This prolonged exposure forced a major ideological pivot. He realized that preaching metaphysics to a starving population was cruel and useless. The people needed food, industry, and practical science. To get those tools, he decided he had to seek financial and technical help from the West. This imposing structure is the administration building at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. He had crossed the Pacific Ocean to attend the Parliament of Religions, aiming to trade India's spiritual philosophy for American material aid. But the execution was a logistical nightmare. He had arrived in America months before the Parliament began. He brought no official credentials, and the organizers explicitly told him it was too late to register as a delegate. Through a series of chance encounters with helpful locals, he finally secured his credentials. On September 11, 1893, he took the stage in an orange robe and turban, facing a crowd of 7,000 people. He didn't speak to convert anyone. He spoke about the ultimate harmony of all religions and fiercely rejected bigotry and fanaticism. In response, the audience rose to their feet in deafening applause. He was an instant sensation. Top American universities offered him academic positions, but he declined them all to maintain his strict monastic life. A man who had arrived penniless and stranded had just used the world's largest public platform to reverse the flow of cultural power, offering a spiritual framework to the industrialized West. When he returned to India in 1897, captured here in this commanding portrait, he was no longer an obscure wanderer. His triumph in the West had granted him a new level of cultural influence and respect within his own borders. He put that influence to work. He founded the Ramakrishna Mission, an institution designed to teach Vedanta philosophy while simultaneously running practical relief operations for the poor and famine-stricken. But the physical cost of this dual mission was severe. Despite acute illness, he drove himself and his fellow monks relentlessly, pouring his remaining energy into the uplift of the masses. Here at the Belur Moth complex, his body finally gave out. On July 4, 1902, after spending the day meditating and instructing his students, he passed away. He was 39 years old. In less than 4 decades, his life revitalized India's national consciousness. He established a lasting exchange between Eastern mysticism and Western pragmatism, creating a model for modern spiritual leadership.